it's just a matter of me understanding where I needed to go.
Okay, so Tim, the 4 videos from last week, you sent those, correct?
No. Remember, we didn't send them.
Okay.
You're the woman at Buffini made them all open.
Yes.
So, and
Okay.
everybody in this class should have access except for Ben Smale and Jennifer Tucker. Everybody else should have access online.
Okay. Do you all have access
say,
online to the videos?
And when you say online, is that in Buffini?
Yeah,
in Referral Maker.
no, it's not Referral Maker.
Okay. Oh,
No, it's Buffini.com.
I'm sorry. It's the 100 Days to Greatness
Right.
piece of which is.
It's in the training center.
It's the training center on Buffini. Go to buffiniandcompany.com, log in, go to training center, and go to 100 Days to Greatness, and then watch these. I don't remember 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that right?
There's four for week 1, which was last week, and then there's 3 that you should have watched as well for this week. Okay, so
Allie Bowden said that she actually did find them in the CRM. But
yeah, they are, Tim. If the CRM with membership, once they get into the Buffini site, they now, the training center now can be accessed through the CRM part of that.
Got it.
I believe. Is that correct, Allie? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I did forget, Colleen Newton's is working on getting transferred over from the 100 Days to Greatness, or from the pathway class to this class. So she didn't have access either.
Okay, so let's quickly do, we can have everybody's attention, put your phones off for 1 hour. Well, and then we'll take a break when we're done with this, and we'll take a break for 5 minutes, and then we'll have some fantastic teaching by Krista Luther, who's going to talk to us about purchase agreements on Mentor. And Gal writes a lot of purchase agreements, and she pretty much gets what her clients need. So, and she's a great teacher. So that will be right immediately following this. So Sarah, what did you get from, tell us the story of how it's evolving for you watching these initial fundamental foundational videos.
I found it really helpful. I was able to upload my initial list into the CRM, and I started to go through and tried to strategize and do my A's and B's and C's. I think I need maybe some guidance and help on that, because I think just being so new and just kind of starting to work with those people, like where they fall, and maybe that will come after, I do more pop-bys and just start to get into the system more and like start to work the program more. I'll be able to kind of figure out where they are in that priority list. And I really liked then also all the notes. I think they're talking about, I don't know at what point, but when he showed that video about like some agents were doing like 700 notes a year. And so actually, when I was watching the videos, I wrote a little list of just people to write notes to. And like, even yesterday I saw my hairstylist, and I thought that would be fun. I can just send like I wouldn't have thought about sending her a note. And so just, I think some strategies like that are gonna be really helpful for me. And then one of the things I didn't get a chance to do, but I want to go into the resource center. And I've been working with Jill, my mentor, on, I really want to execute and have a pie party and kind of figure out what that will look like for me of, like, and who I pick from my list to invite to that pie party and how many pies to host.
Great.
So it's exciting.
We'll help you with that because we do it as a company.
Oh, okay.
So,
did you not know that, Sarah?
Well, I knew it was like as a company, and when I met with Jill, we had a great meeting, and she was like, it's literally that Tuesday. And so I was kind of just trying to figure out.
we'll fill you in. We are ironing it out right now. And this year we're going to do a 2-day one. We're going to do it Monday and Tuesday because we're going to do 2 options. One's going to be a drive-through and one's going to be a party in the office. At least that's the plan. We're still working that out as we speak, so bear with us. Actually, I think we might wrap up the decisions on that later today. But if you want to do it on your own, you can do that too. The reverse pie party is going to be awesome. It's easy, it's simple. You just invite as many people as you can, and you're just buying these inexpensive pies. And at this point in this stage, I would invite everybody you know.
Okay.
You give away
Because
$500
you're
pies?
only gonna do it for people that the RSVP, and
Yeah.
we have a system for all of that as well. Anybody that RSVPs, you buy pies for them. If they did, you don't tell them this, but if they don't show up, then the next day, you have Wednesday that you can drop the pies by. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll give you lots of more detail on that. So that's fantastic. And your note strategy thinking is perfect. And by the way, that 700 notes thing, 3 years ago, you remember, Tim, 2018, the challenge was to write 2018 personal notes in 2018. It was with some of our Buffini White Hat friends, and they were crazy. I didn't do it. Crazy, but yeah, it can be done. So great. Shelby.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute there. I think one thing that I got out of it while watching the videos was getting in contact with people and how important that is for me to be the initiator of contact. And even though I may market on social media, me initiating conversation and reaching out to people. I mean, I have a cleaning business, and that's how I started getting all of my customers, was me reaching out to people and making that contact. So I think just applying that to my real estate business too, even though it's like a no-brainer, is super important.
Yeah, that's a great thing to get out of it, is you being the initiator.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob? Oh, you didn't watch the videos, but tell us about, in the last week, any of this that you have concentrated on from last week.
Yeah, so I've been building my client list within Buffini, starting to grade out the people that I have put in there. I've been taking some Zillow leads over the last week, so I've been making sure that I'm getting in the cadence of putting them in there as well as I get them, so that way I'm not losing contact with anyone who may or may not pan out as a Zillow lead as well. But really, that's what I've been focusing on this last week, is just kind of building that database, so that way I can stay in touch, have those points in the dashboard, working within that every day, making phone calls, and kind of starting the grind, so to speak, about making sure that I'm keeping in contact with people.
Great. Brent? What'd you get?
Hi. I love that it it's like getting pushed off of a cliff, and you have no choice but to either like do it or fall way behind. I had collected a database of thousands of people over my years, and so getting one format to upload it so it's not so crazy in the CRM has been a fun challenge that I'm still working on, but I did get a lot of great ideas for things that I feel confident in that I would pop by, with my people, to make really unique things and not something, necessarily cookie cutter. Like, I'm not saying the pie thing is bad, but for me, like, I'm not a pie person, so I wouldn't do that. But just different ideas. It's been nice to rack my brain and put all that information into a database and slowly, I guess, try and tread water.
So you're gonna probably be surprised with these thousands of people in your database, but we're gonna have you narrow it down to 100 or less.
Yeah, and that I mean, the Facebook contacts or whatever are just a whole nother game. So
yeah, those are two different strategies completely.
Yeah.
Two different, the difference between family friends and acquaintances and people that you've just met. And that's also goes back to Sarah in your thought process of how to qualify people. We'll help you with that along the way, but there will be definitely a you're an A, you're an A plus, you're a B. I don't really use C's. You can make that whatever you want. And D's for me are my outside relationships with other agents. Right now, I don't see why you have to have an area to put a delete in. You just delete them. But
Right.
did you see that Tim, there's a new category. It's O, and that's online leads.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw that. I forgot. Yeah, that's interesting.
I just noticed that the other day and I meant to say something. So there's an O now, which would be online leads, which have a completely different, you know less about them, and they don't come with the same kind of trust that a referral does. So the goal is to get to a bunch of A's and A pluses. So we'll get
By the way, just everybody does do it differently. My C's, I use that as just a mailing list. That's the people that I want to stay in touch with, but I don't want to call. So that would be like neighbors, or maybe once in a while, like if somebody I met and I still want to stay in touch with them, I know where they live. I still think, because I specialize in old houses, so mine's a little more geographic. So I might have it's like I don't feel strong enough calling them or emailing them, but I still want them to get my newsletter. That's a C for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tim. Thank you for bringing that up. And somebody like you that has home specific, like that would be the same thing as we have lists of farm. So kind of farming only specific dialed in kind of farming lists. You could also use it for that.
By the
too.
way, Carmen just asked, what if somebody says they're not ready to buy until next year? Well, it's really going to be how you handle it. They should go in your CRM in some way. As a potential in some way, but they should also be in a separate pipeline list that or I shouldn't say separate unless you're leveraging your CRM properly, which I'm not, so that they're hearing from you on a regular basis, but in a different way, because it's a pipeline lead. It's not a database. It's not the database of the people you're staying in touch with, so you can stay in front of them. They can, it's proliferating your brand. A pipeline listing or buyer, that's somebody you need to stay in touch with on a regular basis and staying in front of them, but in a different way. So,
yeah, good definition of that. Jennifer, I'm just going like what the order you guys are on my screen. So,
couple of things. I really am trying to harness the power of fine tuning and organizing, requalifying my database. So there was a lot of people that I didn't realize were just camping out there, so slightly embarrassed that I saw that. I'll be real, not in front of them. So for me, that was really powerful to do this week. The other thing that I'm tracking is I've never sent out the e-reports. That's just not who I am. That's not kind of the way I look, but it's a cool tool that they are providing for us, and I've never used it. Have you guys ever used the e-reports before? And what has been your traction with it? What have you gotten, like, don't contact me this way? Or are you actually getting like what he said, where somebody said they sent it out and they had 3 emails back? Like, what kind of activity?
Ours goes out automatically, and that's one of the blessings of that. The CRM, the referral maker, is you just put it on automatic. Ours goes out the 15th of the month. I don't send the one in the mail. Pardon me?
Do you get a response on them?
Sometimes, yeah, absolutely. I'd say 10% of the time I do. Okay. But the point is that they're seeing it. Not everybody, people don't necessarily respond. It's staying in front of them so that you own a piece of their mind. Remember, that's the goal, is you want to own a piece of that land in their mind, that when somebody says, do you know a realtor, you're the person that's in front of them. So
I've never done those. I mean, I do my mailing faithfully. All my A's to my C's get a mailing every month from me. And it's very personal. And it's something that I personally create, but I've never followed it up with the e-report on the 15th. So even though I know to do it, I haven't done that. So that's my challenge, I would say, this week, is to put that in front of them and start utilizing that component.
Super easy. Just toggle the button. It automatically goes out. As long as your database is rich in information. So if it has email addresses, it'll automatically go out.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Starla.
Well, I loved all of it. It was a lot to pack into a week.
Yeah.
But I loved it all. You know, I'm a high I on the DISC, so I loved all of it. And so then my mind gets to going, and I got to focus. And I see a lot of parallels, you know, because I have been with Mary Kay for a long time with the note writing and handing out your business card and that. And I'm also like squirrel over there. So I love this focus that it gives me. And then what stuck out to me when he said only 15% of your business is the technical. So I'm like, oh, hello, Starla, stop worrying about technical stuff, which, you know, that is what is freaking me out, and focus on all this other stuff. So that stuck out to me.
That's good. Just so you know, I just got off of a call with 9 agents who between them probably been in the business for 150 years. And that was exactly what the conversation was about, was getting stuck in the minutia of the business and letting go to a transaction coordinator or assistant, or, and you know, I can't always do that when you're new in business, but that's the goal, is to get rid of the stuff that you can pay somebody by the hour, a smaller amount than what your time is worth. That's what you're reaching for. Just so you know where we're going with this, we're going to a place where the heart of you is all that is left to serve your clients. The details and all the rest of that, you orchestrate. If you're a high I on the disc, you're a leader anyway, and you're a global seer. So you will be able to do that. But that's the point, is to pull yourself up, not let the minutia pull you down. So
Thank you.
Tim, do you have anything to add to anything?
No, I think she's got the right attitude. I understand.
Right.
And he is right. You like Starlight, that technical stuff's great, and you need to know it. And it's great that you have a brain for it.
Don't
It's
have
just-
a brain for it.
It's just a small piece. It's like, honestly, the biggest piece is the getting to know the clients and lead generation and trust. I mean, that's what you got to get. By the way, really quick, while I've got the floor, Jennifer, Tucker, do you guys do HomeBot? She's not.
Sorry. No, I'm here. It just took me a hot second to figure out where my mic was. No, yes, no, we've started dabbling with it. We haven't pulled it into place fully. I think it's something that I'd like to look into, though.
Well, the reason I say that is that's one of the only things that I've done consistently. It's because I've been scattered, and as far as that kind of marketing, and
Yeah.
it has blown my mind how many people love HomeBot.
Really?
And it's so
Do you want to
cheap.
explain it, Tim?
So it's a software that you can buy, subscribe to. It's $25 a month, I think, for up to like 500 clients. So it's at this rate, it's virtually free. And it's for people that already own a home. So it can be a past client, somebody you sold a home to, or it could be just somebody you know, and you just set it up. I mean, you create them an account with their email. Well, they make it really easy to set up an account. I think it gives them a standard password, and then they go in there, and it's almost like Zillow in that it gives you a Zestimate, but it's far more accurate. And if you can go in there and you can program, you can put in how much your mortgage is, or they can put how much their mortgage is and the interest rate, and it'll tell them all sorts of stuff about their mortgage and what they've got left. But it's constantly sending your clients like an update, like a CRM, or not like a Zillow, like a Zestimate on a monthly basis, and more, and they just eat it up, and it's so cheap. I just can't stand it.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I haven't actually played with it just because it does give very accurate, relatively accurate information specifically to their home, because people are always, especially right now in this market, they're always like, what's my home worth? What's my home worth? What is
Right.
it? You know, that kind of thing. So that's cool to hear your positive review on that.
I would say I get the most feedback on it from clients that just say, I just love that home bot. They say it all the time. All
I
the
want to
time.
show you, the lender, one of the lenders that we use does HomeBot for us. And it comes onto my email like this. It is one of the emails that I open every single time because it says C68154 report, which is the area code where I live. And then it breaks down everything that is relative to my marketplace. And then it tells me where my home is right now. And I love it because every month it just keeps getting higher and higher. And it makes me feel good. And it makes me, I know this is my lender, but if it was my realtor, that would be the person that I would call back. So Tim, I don't use it, but I think I should use it too. I've been being the consumer. And as a consumer, I can highly recommend that. You're right. A lot of bang for your buck.
I mean, $25 a month for
Yeah,
up to 500
exactly.
people. I mean, that is all virtually free at that
Yeah.
point. It's
Yeah.
so cheap. So
That's
anyway.
a I don't know, HBO. Like, so, okay, perfect. Yeah, that's great. These are all, by the way, everything that you guys are saying is exactly what you should be taking and challenging out of each one of these. I'm super impressed with all of what you're saying. So, Allie.
So I took quite a bit of notes. There were a lot of things that I related with. I guess I should start with, I'm very awkward and I don't really know how to talk to people. So all of these role plays just give me such anxiety. Like I would never say that. I could never do that. It's just, it's hard. So I have to work on that. But I liked how one of his quotes said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And so it kind of just brought it full circle to me that this isn't just about business. This is also about myself and developing as a person.
Wow. Honest to God, like that is the best thing that you could personally say. But it's the truth. I see people who work on their business. Their numbers get bigger and they just get to be bigger jerks. And if you work on yourself, your numbers will get bigger and you will get to be a bigger person. And that's magic. So if any of you missed that when you were listening to the videos or watching them, go back and listen to that again. So thank you. Christian.
By the way, but Allie, I want to say to you, I know you said a moment ago that you were talking about how you couldn't say that, you couldn't ask for the referral, whatever it is. I completely respect all of it. That's why every single one of every mayor campaign, everything that they're teaching us is valid. You just have to find ways that you can say it comfortably. And once you establish that verbiage, whatever that verbiage is, whatever you make it so that it can roll off your tongue, you need to focus on that, because the more you can find that verbiage, the more you can get it to roll off your tongue, the more you're going to say it. So I totally understand. He says, oh, by the way, if you know anybody looking to buy or sell a house, I'm never too busy for your referrals or whatever. I can't say it like that. It just doesn't roll off my tongue like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to customize it for yourself. And the quicker you do it, the more you're going to say it.
I agree with Tim on that. If it doesn't sound like it's something that's true to you and how you speak, then you're never going to say it. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's so easy for me to throw a conversation when I'm talking to one of my clients and I'll say, girl, thanks so much for the coffee today. I appreciate you. You know, anybody looking to make a move, why don't you send them my way? Because I would love the opportunity to help them out. Boom. I just asked for the referral. It rolled right off the tongue because the language was something that resonates with me. Mm-hmm. So you've got to figure out what that language is and how you speak in your cadence in order to ask for that referral. So Tim, that was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, and that's going to be the next thing we're going to do. So hopefully you guys all have your books in front of you because we're going to do a little exercise around that. Christian, thank you for your
Hi.
patience. Hi.
Yeah, sure. Actually, kind of just going off of what Allie and Tim were just discussing is I find it hard to, I guess, start organic conversations with people and then somehow like segue it into, oh, hey, by the way, I'm a real estate agent, like send me referrals. That's always really hard for me. So one of the things that I found most valuable in the videos I was watching is that mayor campaign. And kind of just watching the role play video where she kind of goes through and she's talking to the mom at the soccer game. And she sounds very organic, like she's literally just asking her questions about her kid and they have something in common. And then she just happens to mention like, oh, you know, if you knew someone looking to make a move, do you have someone you'd refer them to? And it was nice to just kind of see that play out and how you really can, because I have kids and they're involved in stuff. And a lot of times I am talking with the parents and it never, I guess it's always hard for me to be like, okay, how do I bring this up? And then I just don't. So then there's all these connections I've made, but then I'm not really using that to my benefit because they don't even know that I do that.
That's great. And you
So I
actually
think
just
that
did it really well. So you hold on to that because I'm going to have you guys all do this. So
perfect. Anyway, so I guess
Yeah.
that's probably what I took the most from the videos was that, because that's where I struggle a lot, is finding ways to bring it up without sounding salesy.
Yeah.
And then also when they had said, oh, you're going to write 150 notes or however many notes it is, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know 150 people, let alone someone I would write a personal note to. So it was nice that they kind of broke down a list of like, hey, send it here. I actually just got my hair done the other day and she was telling me about a trip she has coming up. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to write her a note and just tell her to have a good time. And so it was nice to have it broke out for us. Like, these are people you can send notes to. And that, I guess, made me feel less uncomfortable about it. So
That's great. By the way, small little tip here. You can send notes to your children, to your mom, to your dad, to your brother, to your sister, to your cousin, to your, even if they're not even old enough to buy a house.
Okay.
Or if they're not going to sell their house, because what you're looking for is to create walking, talking advocates for you, but they have to know what you do.
Right.
And so the note would be personal, but it also will have like that your Better Homes and Garden, you know, your return address would have that on it. And some people do differently. They use their own address versus I use personally, I use the Better Homes and Gardens just so that there's a relationship, because a lot of times my notes have absolutely nothing to do with buying or selling a house. They're just personal to them. Drove by your house today, saw you out in the garden. Hope all things are well, whatever. So there's meaning in all those things, and it's very simple. So that's good feedback.
I want to let you know, I have a house under contract right now. This person came through an open house I had in Field Club about 8 years ago. And we made small talk. She was really nice. She told me about how property she had that her and her husband are going to sell one day. And I deduced where that property was, got her first name, did not ask her any personal information. When she left, I looked it up on DC Assessor. I found her home address. I sent her a personal note. And this year she called me. I have not stayed in touch with her. This year she called me and I listed her property. And it was one personal note that I sent her after an open house. Open houses, when you're in an open house and then you get nosy neighbors, ask them where they live, have them pointed out, send them a personal note, and don't ask them their address. You figured it out. And they either they're creeped out or they're impressed, one of the two.
and focusing on the action in the moment is actually the best advice that Tim is giving you there. He acted on his instinct and did it, even if he didn't go farther and put her into his database. He acted on his instinct. That woman got a personal note, and she probably hadn't had anything like that from anybody in a long time, and she remembered. So you will be very surprised at what happens on the other end and particularly with personal notes. And we have stories that we can, we'll tell more about with personal notes, but probably the best and biggest proponent of my business over 20 years has been with personal notes. So Dylan.
Yeah, kind of going with Christian and Allie. I think the role plays, especially the one at the kids game, was really helpful for me because, you have to start letting people know I'm pretty new. So you have to start letting people know, and you have to slip it in to those kinds of conversations. So I think watching those role plays was super helpful for me.
Good. And that is a really good one. And Jamie's really good at it because she's been doing this for a long time. But she also, that was probably one of the better ones where it felt like it was just comfortable. It wasn't a, hey, give me your attention.
Right.
I'm gonna buy a house. I sell houses. Yeah, we all have that creeped out kind of feeling when we're doing that. So, Shannon.
There it is. Hi. First of all, Carol, I have to tell you, thank you for the recommendation. I know you gave it to Stephanie, but I downloaded the Audible, I did both the 5-second rule and the high five habit. Girl, I have been high fiving myself in the mirror and getting my butt out of bed by like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. I even implemented it with my kids. And so I want to just thank you for that. And if you guys haven't read it, heard it, listened to it, do it. So thank you for making that recommendation. It was helpful. And I can kind of like ditto everything. But basically, and it was the silliest thing ever is from those role plays. People are like, hey, tell me what you do. Oh, what do you do? I help people buy and sell houses, our homes. And I'm like, so many people, oh, I'm a realtor, I'm a real estate agent, but I mean, just even changing that verbiage, like I help people or I get to help people buy and sell homes. I'm like, duh, and so that was just something really basic, but it was a big takeaway for me. And then just the whole thing is consistency, really. Like, I feel like we can feel really unqualified or not confident in, in the market area, but just being consistent and providing those things of value to people, it really, it is, you keep in front of people, but it's a consistency. So they're like, every month she's sending me something, and I think that will then pay off in like, you're reliable, you're dependable, those 4 things. But just caring for your clients. I mean, people want to know that they are being thought of, that they are being cared for, that they're being valued. And I'm a great person of great intentions. Like I intend to do all of these things, but then when it comes to taking them into action, there's a disconnect. And so personal notes, I put them in my car now. And so I have them in my little thing. And as soon as I, think of something that I want to write, I just quick write out a note, right? I have stamps in my car. I have a note in my car, so just doing it when it becomes a thought and not forgetting about it.
My money's on you, Shannon.
Like, oops, hold on, I got
you're talking to Tim's smiling because these are all the kinds of things that I'm constantly like preaching about is keep envelopes in the little side pocket of your car. If you've seen somebody, somebody calls on the phone, just pull the envelope out, write their name on it, stick it in your bag or your purse, whatever you've got. And then when you go back to your office or your home to do your whatever you're going to do, you've already got those and it triggers something. Even if you don't write the note, or if you're early for an appointment, sitting there, you can write a note. I don't even keep the notes in my car anymore. I just keep the envelopes. But having them there, having them by the next to the chair that I sit in the morning and have coffee, I will have them right there because if I have to stop, think about it, then do it later, it just doesn't work for me. So I treat myself like I'm like 2 years old. Yeah. And I put, like, here's the food, here's this, you can just reach for it because my mind works in so many ways. But I love that. And I'm so happy that you actually took action and listened to Mel Robbins because she's got a lot to say for us right now. And we're our best advocates. I just, this is good news and bad news, but nobody else is going to take care of you, the inside of you, except you. Like,
Yeah.
and the more you do that, the more people are attracted to you. It's the law of attraction. So I have so many people reading that book right now. Do you know that book is #1 on the New York Times bestseller? The Audible is #1 on the New York Times bestseller in the world, and she's #2 as the most most read, listened to author in the whole world right now.
Can you repeat the titles and the author of those books? I wrote it down last time, but I can't find where I wrote it down.
Her name is Mel Robbins. She has a website that's melrobbins.com. It's MELROBBINS. And the name of the book is The High Five Habit. Her first book was The 5-Second Rule. She was suffering from depression, which she still does. She goes up and down. And she couldn't get out of bed for 1 year. She was one of the news stations. She was a commentator for one of the new. I mean, she had some terrific jobs, but she is so real, and she remembers the crumbs dropped on the way, so that she can go back and teach people. And I'm not, I'm usually not that attached to or impressed with people who are in the spotlight, but I've been watching her. We actually saw her in person. Buffini brought her when 5-Second Rule first came out, and we were in with like 300 people and her. So it was pretty impressive from the very, very beginning. And she's got a lot to say. And if you need some propping up, you need somebody that can show you how to take care of yourself. Shannon did the high five. Yeah. And then what I'd love to do one time when we have the classes, I want us all to high five, and I can take a screenshot picture and I'll send it to her. So
that'd be awesome.
That'd be fun. But I'd like you all to be introduced to it, so that you really feel like you know what you're doing there. So cool. All right. Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome.
John Begley. Hi, Mr. Begley.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm well.
Good. Great systems. I've really enjoyed it thus far, just uploading all of my information. I'm very primitive in that it's all manual at this point, but it's interesting. Before the Zoom this morning, last week I was down at Midtown Crossing, and I have a lot of contacts, several listings there, and was visiting a client who went over to Culprit Cafe, and I was wearing an Okoboji t-shirt. So the little gal at the counter said, Okoboji. And I said, yeah, we love going there. We have a cabin there. So I asked her where the cabin was. And I said, my goodness, we used to stay up there back in the 80s and 90s, dating myself, and just loved it. And she said, if you're interested, reach out to my mom. We started renting it. So I called her this morning and was on the phone with her for about 45 minutes and just sharing our experience. She was sharing her experiences there. And as we got to know each other, we know, several people, and we know them very, very well, because she said, we're a little apprehensive. We're not Airbnb, and we're basically want to know who the people are. So at any rate, it was a wonderful conversation. And she's got us on the list for next year. So I'm in the midst of writing her a personal letter. And her home is a block away from where I used to live. So nice. At any rate, I mean, it's situations like that. And, back to Tim, with your open house, I love how you do that. It's just getting the little cues, and you do your due diligence to figure out who these people are. You don't have to ask a lot of questions. DC assessor is out there, and you can pretty much, if you have a neighbor, well, I just live across the street in here. Well, you can look that up, and then, a little note to them, from the open house, and a little bit about your engagement with them at the open house. One of the things I like to do with opens is, the neighbors are immediately around the home that you have listed, is send them letters ahead of time to let them know, it's going to be coming to market. If you have any questions, opens begin this day, so that, you're reaching out to them to make a connection, to invite them over. And again, in hopes to procure a client. But no, I love the system. Like I said last week, I love his podcast, and I'm just excited to get into more of a consistent pattern of connecting with my clients and, doing more for my pop buys. I do quite a bit of them, but I don't do enough.
Is that your biggest challenge, John?
You know, what really is just, you know, getting up and saying, okay, today, this is what I need to execute.
Systems.
You know,
Yeah.
systems, right? And so being
Yeah.
able to have the referral maker in front of you to say, okay, this is what today looks like, and you fit that into your schedule and you make it happen. And, you know, to me, it's being rhythmic, it's being, you know, on target and just doing that consistently and, you know, not in a punctuated manner. So
last thing I'll say to you is, and Brian will, I believe he teaches this in this class, is you said something about having those systems in place and then fitting that into your schedule. Brian says it the opposite way. That goes in your schedule as your time that you do lead generation or whatever those things attached to that are, calls, notes, Popeyes, whatever. And then everything else fits into your schedule. So
agreed.
So right now, switch the sides of that concern, and
Right.
and everything will change.
Right.
Okay.
It's totally true.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
the other thing you did is you talked about she recognized the logo at Okoboji or whatever. This is one of the reasons a lot of realtors do wear name tags, because when you get out in the world, people will ask, people will say things. I'll never forget Kelly McAlunas had a story where she was at the store, she was wearing her name tag, and she pardon me.
Blinged out name tag that had,
and when she was leaving the store, she realized that the checker hadn't charged her. They charged her for the plant, but they didn't charge her for the pot because she put the plant in the pot. So she went back to a different cashier, and she says, "I'm sorry, they didn't charge me for this." And the cashier said, "I'm looking for a really ethical realtor. Will you help me sell my house?" And she did. She literally sold a house. Awesome. She's actually sold 2 houses because of that. And she was wearing her name tag. So it's a little bit different than what you were talking about. But wearing your name tag, especially when you're new, wear it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great feedback. Colleen. Hi. Can't hear you.
It always takes me a minute to get to my microphone.
Okay.
So I didn't get to watch the videos, but my team does have a challenge this week for the rest of the month, 3 note cards a day. So I went through and I have this planner that I buy a new one every year. I just get it off of Amazon. And it also has a lot of like mindfulness stuff in it and be intentional with your time. And so it has the weekly planner. And so I wrote down every day for the rest of the month who I'm writing up note cards to. And that's what I'm doing, especially now that, I've taken this full time. It's, something that I'm really trying to get out there. And I have no problem telling people, I'm a realtor. I help people find houses or sell houses. And it's something that I like to tell people that I'm doing, so that way I can get out there. And I actually had a friend last week looked at me and said, "This isn't the time or place." And I said, "Everywhere is the time or place for me. Sorry. Like, it's just, if you don't want me around, if you don't want me talking about it, then don't invite me places." So that's.
Well, they qualified themselves, didn't they?
Yeah. Exactly. That's time or place. I'm like, it's not like, we were at a bar. So it's not like we were at a funeral or something like that. We were at a bar. So
I've gotten a lead when I was on the having surgery on my knee and going under just before the nurse. And I tried to read her name tag, and because she had something else on, I couldn't see it, and she had a mask on. And I remember waking up and thinking, damn, that woman said she wanted to sell her house, and I could not remember because it was in surgery. So there's a time. Any time is a time.
Any time's a good time.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, my doctor, I definitely let her know when I was in there. I'm like, I do this full time now.
Yeah. I've got business that a nurse that took care of me, nighttime nurse. I met one night that they've bought and sold 5 houses with us.
Wow.
So yeah, it's who you are, not necessarily what you do. Angelica, I'm loving this feedback, by the way, and we won't do all this every single time, but want to see what you guys are absorbing. You're the sponges for this, so I want to see what you're absorbing, and this is really important for week 1 and 2. So glad this is recorded. So, All right.
So catching up from last week, I was able to watch the first 2 modules. A lot or something that really stuck out to me in the first one was the 3-leg stool. And the fact that sales and marketing, customer service, and financial management is really what our whole business is built upon. And so I noticed a big emphasis on the sales and marketing and how that is our business, and then the customer service is our job. So being a new agent, I have not really been super comfortable with like cold calling and whatnot, but I went to a training a couple weeks ago, and that put a really huge emphasis on getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So I've really been pushing myself and just really being uncomfortable almost every day of the week, doing things that I wouldn't normally do. For example, cold calling, it's been a couple weeks now, probably a month. So it's not as bad as it was a month ago. I was so nervous. My anxiety was so bad, but yeah, I would say the sales and marketing, and then the fact that customer service is our job, that really stuck out to me. So I'm really hoping to just get a lot of insight on how to improve my customer service and coming across as like relaxed and flowy when I'm talking to leads that I don't know and they don't know me.
So Angelica, if you change the word service and make it customer care, does it have a different resonation for you?
It definitely does. Yeah.
Okay. So that's my advice to you is
Great.
change the language, you'll change the results.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Just like serving people versus working for them.
Right. That's a big difference.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that helps me to shift my fears and my resistances is to change the language that has the trigger around it.
When I was in the restaurant business, it was always stating they're guests. They're not customers. They're our guests, because you're making a connection with them.
Yeah.
And, creating an experience, and it's an engagement. So they're guests, as if they're
They
coming in your own
definitely.
home.
Just think about it. Yeah.
And I come from the serving industry, so I know exactly what you mean when you say that.
Yeah. So we are looking to become the trusted advisor, the kind of that silent servant that is there to serve. We have a ton of business, and we have a lot of people that really lean into us. I'm not even concerned about the people who lean into us to buy or sell a home as much as their trust in us to have a long-term relationship that includes referral to people that they trust. Because I want a trust business. I don't want that gap that says, trust me, trust me, trust me. Here, how about this? Do you trust me now? Do you trust me now? I want it from the very beginning. So all of that has to do with language. And along the way, in these 10 weeks, I will ask you specifically what you mean by a word, because sometimes just changing the word changes the response. So
yeah.
Carmen,
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, you guys kind of switched on my screen. So if I missed somebody, let me know.
Yeah, you're fine. A lot of background noise, sorry.
Somebody needs there. John, okay, thank you. All right, Carmen, is it you, background music, background noise? Yeah.
Is it my background noise?
I think so. You're the only one that's got your speaker on.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay. Let's go with Tony, and then Carmen, maybe the noise will subside back behind you. Tony, you're on. You're live.
Well, thank you. I missed the first week, so I'm just getting caught up. I haven't watched any of the videos yet, but what I've learned so far is...
Watch the videos?
I haven't watched the videos yet, no.
That's what I said. What you
well, I'm going to watch videos.
Watch the videos.
Just my experience. I did I was in retail for 11 years as a manager, and when customers had questions, I always had to know the answer right away. So my biggest struggle now is telling the clients I don't know, and I'll have to get back to them. I feel like I need to know the answer to whatever question they're asking me, and
Okay.
it really puts me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. You're not alone. It is, how many of you feel like that's a biggest scare in being a new agent, is people asking you questions that you don't know the answer to? Well, I want to tell you something, that even after you've been doing this for a long time and you've had thousands of transactions, you're still going to have questions that people ask you that you don't know the answer to. And Tony, you're right. I'm going to get back to you. I'm only one phone call away from somebody who does know that. So that is a big challenge. Are you going to be able to watch the videos?
Yes, I have. I'm going to be caught up by next week for sure.
That will help you a lot. Everybody else can attest to that. You can hear the feedback. It'll help you a lot to start feeling like, hey, this isn't that hard.
Sounds like it, yeah.
This is what I know already. It's not about how many facts you know about the rules in real estate. It's more about how you know how to serve your clients. So,
and I'll chime in for a moment because Carol's spot on. You're never going to know it all. I mean, you have this. You come from a background where you knew all the answers, and so it's really more a matter of learning, once again, verbiages that can roll off your tongue to make you feel better when you need to, go get the information. So you feel less saying, I don't know. But the market changes, the situation changes. No real estate transaction is the same every time. You just have to be able to fake it till you make it. And you really can. So I would focus on coming up with ways to professionally say, I don't know, without saying I don't know. And then just come up, because if it's a confidence thing and that's really bothering you, come up with a solution, because you're never going to know it all. You're always going to have to ask questions. Always.
Tim, that's a really good point. I think so early in my sales career, prior to real estate, I had a sales leader tell me something that was incredibly impactful for me, is when you don't know the answer, don't think of it as you're exhibiting that you're uninformed or you're ill-informed. It's an opportunity for you to come back and provide value to that client and have additional discussions, right? Because you may not know the answer right then and there, but you'll come back with the right answer, and then you may have 3 or 4 questions that will uncover more value for that person. So don't take it as like a knock on you, Tony. Take it as an opportunity to have a further value-driven discussion.
They've just helped you to have your next contact.
Right. The follow-up's a lot easier.
They just gave you a prize, like, hey, I have something I can do for you. Let me go find this out and I'll be right back. And
I'll be the hero.
Yeah. And yeah, they've teed you up. So so that's perfect. Who has not? Alexis, and who has not talked?
Carmen texted. She put her, because it was loud, she put her stuff in the chat.
Okay. I also missed the first week and haven't watched the videos yet, but it's time blocked into my day today. I think that's been difficult, overcoming taking things personally, from cold calling to losing a client to an agent with more years under their belt. I am a people pleaser and I'm very hard on myself when I feel like I have let someone down. Well, that all of those things I've experienced, I'm sure Tim has experienced. In fact, I know every single agent that I know. Cold calling is scary. I would rethink what the definition of that is, because the 2 words together, cold calling, to me is run like hell. Like that's like walking into a freezer. Cold calling. Like that does not work for me, has never worked. And it almost kept me out of the real estate business until I found out there's another way to do it. Overcoming taking things personally, that's the personal work. Who was it that said at the very beginning? Was it you, Starla, or Sarah, about work on the sooner you work on more you work on yourself, the better results you're going to have in your business. Stated another way, but that's the personal work that you do in tandem with the business work. And and losing a client to an agent with more years. There's a whole lot behind the more years thing, and we'll talk about that next week, because next week I want to deal with two things that we didn't get to deal with this week, and that one of them is we're going to talk about the Joe Nago's mayor campaign. I want you all to be prepared to do that for us with your book open. I don't care how you do it, but oh, by the way, if you know someone who's looking to buy or sell a home, or you had a friend or family member that was looking to buy or sell a home, do you have a realtor that you'd refer them to? Or eventually you'll get to, am I the realtor you would refer them to? But that's the mayor campaign, and I want you guys to learn that. Then you can redo it to your comfort level with some tips in there of how all those things work together. But that's your home. That's going to be one of your pieces of homework. There was already homework in from these videos, your action plans, how to set up your monthly marketing tutorial in Referral Maker, send out your announcement letter if you're brand new and announcing in your first mailing, and watch the mayor campaign role play video. So that we're going to do that next week. And then I also want to continue to talk about what we're going to be doing going forward. And next week's class is on week 3. Geez, week 2 has got lots of modules in it. The 365 system, which is how you work this out, the whole big picture of how you work this out all year long. So that'll be great. We have, did we lose anybody, or did?
No, we never lost anybody during the class. Krista Luther's having a hard time with sound, so
Okay.
I'm helping her with that. That's what
Okay,
she logged
and then
off.
is there anybody that did not get a chance to talk today to give us feedback? Raise your hand. Alexis, yeah.
Alexis.
Yeah. Hey,
Wrap us up here before we go into the next thing with Krista. So
you keep saving me for last, so I must be the bet. No, just kidding.
for some reason you're down at the
That's okay.
the end of my screen, but
I don't mind to be. I don't care.
I'll move you up.
No, I'm just kidding. Don't. No. So I didn't get a chance to watch all of the videos. I made it most of the way through. I just have a couple left. But I really liked the mayor campaign. I have been doing this, well, almost a year, and I am still too scared to tell people that I'm a realtor. And when people ask me like, oh, how is business going? Or, what do you do? I'm just always very shy. I don't really like talking about myself in general. I have a little bit of social anxiety. So I think that the mayor campaign will really help me in watching that gal do her little skit.
Jamie,
I've been in those situations, and I am going back and thinking like, oh, these are all the opportunities I've missed. So just, I guess, making a conscious effort to do that in the future. And I just, a lot of the statistics that he throws out, I look back at myself again. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the typical realtor where I spend 85% of my day doing, or 39% of my day doing errands or whatever it is. And I just need to realign my business and plan my day better to work on leads that I have, and not just keep waiting for the phone to call, and actually pick it up and start calling more.
Okay, I'm gonna correct a couple of words that you said.
Okay.
Typical realtor.
Well, I thought that was the word that he used, but maybe not. So.
But I want to know what your definition of a typical realtor is, because that's where the fear is.
Maybe an unsuccessful realtor.
Wow.
I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
I guess what I meant by that was I'm setting I have habits, or I haven't fine-tuned my business enough to be successful.
Great. Okay. Fine-tuning your business is a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's a typical realtor. I think there's probably a typical idea of what a realtor is, and it's not always the best. And I know lots of very professional realtors who are constantly fighting the ideology that realtors are out to, to do something not in your best interest. And that's not the truth. So I want you to see typical realtor is somebody who is a successful person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what we're aiming at getting to. So great. Any questions, last comments? Because we're going to take about a 5-minute break, no more than that. And then we'll come back with everybody run to the bathroom. And then we'll come back with Krista Luther. Do you have sound now?
I do.
All right. Yeah, Krista Luther, and she's going to talk to us about purchase agreements. So super
Get
excited.
ready.
Fired up.
It'll be exciting.
Okay. Let's take a break. And hey, Tim, can I just put pause on this recording? Or are we starting? You guys don't have to get off of here. You can stay on. We're going to put a pause.
They're all
on.
leaving.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to pause the recording. Okay.
Security cameras. When there's not a security camera, and then as the listing agent, you have to write it out. So, know the house and know the things in there, and don't be afraid. If you don't know, go to pictures or call the listing agent and ask them questions. You should be calling the listing agent to be finding out the seller's preferred closing date if you're going to write a contract anyway. Number 4, you guys, this is your mentors will help you with this, but this is how we accept the warranty deed. I was taught by Tim Reeder to write equal. My mentor had said warranty deed only, but you can say or equal because sometimes there's an estate, there's different situations, and then no exceptions. Number 5, this talks about assessments. You need to read this thoroughly and understand it. But in essence, what it's talking about is if there's paving, like say they're going to put in a sidewalk, if it happens before close or starts before close, it's the seller's obligation. If it happens after close, it's the buyer's. The seller does have to make the buyer aware within 5 days. But again, read it, know it. Number 6 is consideration. How much are they going to offer on the house? You do it in long form writing and then in the numerical form and then the earnest deposit. And then the next part is that earnest deposit. You guys, I normally do. Colleen, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was gonna say, when you write in the amount of the offer and say they're putting down, like I have a client that was putting down $90,000 cash. So where do you put, and I guess maybe I'm jumping ahead because I'm getting to the loan part of it, which is below that. But when you're saying the loan is going to be, if it's like a $270,000 house and they're putting down 90,000, so the loan's, in at 180, how do you put that into the new purchase agreement?
That's a great question, and we will actually get there. It's just right around the bend.
Sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. I'm glad that you're asking questions, honestly, because who wants to hear me talk for a full hour? The earnest deposit is going to be a little bit different than how much they're putting down. And if you're doing a cash, put a nice down payment. Nice earnest deposit, because you're just showing the buyer's willingness to commit to that. And that's really what that earnest deposit is, right? It's just a promise. And I'll get back to that and I'll address that with you. And then the next part that we go to normal, and you guys, I'm going to tell you this. And again, this is how I do my business. So you have to do it on your own. In this super competitive market that we're in, I tell my buyers 1% down at least. And that shows commitment, but it's up to your buyer. It's not us, it's your buyer, but they look to us for suggestions. So then moving on. Number 7 talks about when that gets delivered. And you guys, I've heard all over the map. I know that Ben's Mail delivers it at the time. I usually do it within 48 hours. That's how I came in. My mentor did it that way. And so that's how I do it. If my people are wiring money in, I give it 72 hours just to make sure that we've got enough time. And then the next part of that contract talks about when that earnest deposit gets returned. And I'm going to go over this super quick. You guys have questions. That was really cool, Colleen, to just wave your hand like that. That worked well. I hope I'm saying your name right. There's a couple of variations. it goes back to the buyer if it's not an accepted contract. And then also if there's bad title and the title company can't remedy it, just automatically goes back to the buyer. The seller keeps it if the buyer just changes their mind in the middle of it, or if they wrongfully refuse or fail to consummate the contract or the transaction. And then also on top of that, the seller can pursue further damages. Let your buyer know right now, because what we're seeing is a lot more buyer remorse in these competitive offers. People are just kind of throwing money out, and the buyers need to understand that there's no turning back from this point. That, you know, we have maybe the home inspection and maybe the appraisal, but this is their opportunity to make their decision, and that's it. And then with regard to that earnest deposit, the escrow company holds it, and they will, if there's a dispute, they'll turn it over to the court, and they do not return that earnest deposit until both parties agree. And that's, so then go to number 8, next page. This is where we start talking about that financing. So this is where we're going to address that. So you have to put in what kind, if you're going to do all cash, conditional upon financing, and the terms of financing. The first thing I'm going to say about this, you guys make sure and fully fill this out. If I have 10 offers and somebody didn't fill this out correctly, it really doesn't give me all the information that I need. In 8.2.1 terms of financing, that's where you show how much they're going to put down. Because say it's a $200,000 house and they're going to put $90,000 down, they're financing $110,000, right? So that makes sense. So you would put that, it's so hard for me to show on Zoom, but that financed amount is there. And some agents will put the full amount. Well, it's kind of aggravating when you have multiple offers and you want to know, are they a good solid buyer? Are they putting, not to say that 3% down is bad, but it's just not as secure for my seller, you know, and with regards to being a listing agent. And then just fill out the rest as best as you can. Now, I was also taught, because we do have ever-changing rates right now, just to cushion that rate a little bit. If your buyer is absolutely 2.85 on their loan, cushion it, go up 2.953, and explain to them, I'm just cushioning this, and this is why. The rates change. We don't know what the rate will be when you lock down your loan. Okay. And then, and you guys, we don't do sellers financing or loan assumptions right now. We just haven't seen it in our market. So if we hit that, you're gonna hit your mentor or your broker and talk to them further about it. 8.22, that's where you put in your lender's name and information. And then also know that in that you do have to, or your buyer has to apply for the loan within 5 business days. And they say that you have to prove that to the seller. I've never done that, but always tell your buyer that they have to pursue their loan within 5 business days. That usually happens because we send the contract to the loan originator, or I'm sorry, the mortgage lender. I send it to them the day that we go under contract. Okay, so let's go to sale contingencies. You guys, I'm going to just give you a super brief overview on this. Number 9 is if you've got a house that needs to get listed and sold, or a house that is under contract. And this is where I wanted to use Jen Tucker as an example. So I had a listing a week ago, and Jen had buyers that had a contingency. And normally, let's face it, that's kind of a red flag for us, especially in this market as a listing agent. You don't really want to have to deal with them closing on their house. Jen Tucker did the great job of giving me a call and saying, hey, I'm just going to explain this contingency. The home inspection was waived, and the buyer is paying any difference between the purchase price and the appraisal price. So basically, all of those things were waived. So it kind of gives us, green light. We're a little bit more comfortable accepting their contingency that way. You guys have any questions so far? I'm just covering everything.
Yeah, throw stuff in the chat too, if you don't want to raise your hand. So, Alexis is raising her hand.
Alexis, go ahead.
Yeah, can you repeat what you just said about her offer? How she wrote a contingency, but then she waived it? Can you go?
No, she didn't. I'm sorry, she didn't waive it. She basically made it so my sellers were comfortable. She called me and said, the home inspection was waived. So they're not doing a home inspection on their house. And
Okay.
the buyer was covering any difference from the appraisal to their purchase price. So we
Okay.
didn't really have, like, we don't have the threats of those contingencies.
Okay.
So
But you-
it's basically, this house is almost ready to close. So it
Okay.
made my sellers a lot more comfortable. It was a great offer other than that sticky contingency.
Gotcha. Okay. So her house
Okay.
was her buyer's house was already under contract and those buyers.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Thank
And
you.
you guys, and every agent can look at this differently, but when I came in, I was taught from my mentor that if your client doesn't have their house at least under contract, they're not truly a ready, willing, and able buyer. And so I've always approached my business like that. Yes, of course, it's a risk because they have to sell their house and then who knows when they're going to find a house. But we've seen a lot of things that you can do. You can do a 60-day close. I mean, there's a lot of other options available. So those are, I still
Krista,
enjoy that.
speak to just one little piece here. I think one of the biggest things for new agents, or even a couple of years in agents, is thinking that everything is black and white, and that there's always, like, you have to say it this way. Whatever it is that you want agreement between a buyer and seller can be negotiated and agreed upon. So kind of speak to how to listen for that and how to get help with it. And just that it's not all black and white for what you want in your contract.
Carol, give me an example of what you're, I'm kind of
Okay,
searching.
example. And I don't know if Brian does this story in his in the 100 Days to Greatness that they would be exposed to. I'm not sure. I don't remember if he does the story. It's the surfer story where the guy wanted
was that the dog?
The seller's dog in the contract.
No, not in my world. That's never going to happen. But
Okay.
I'll talk about it. So that actually leads us perfectly to the next portion, which is this big empty box.
Yes.
So that's 10. That's other provisions. And other provisions, that's where you can offer like seller paid closing costs or sorry, I just lost my track. Post occupancy, we can clean your house for you. Whatever your buyer wants to add into that contract, there's a whole box just waiting for you to fill in. Now, within reason, and your buyer has to agree to all of that. But in this, the market's not as difficult as it was, like say in June. You guys, I had a house in the market and I got 36 offers. If that ever happens to me again. Anyway, we saw some really creative things and things that probably were not legal because they're just throwing everything that they can. But you can coach your client in that. Give them the best tools in their tool belt. If they do have a post-occupancy, I'm sorry, not a post-occupancy. If they have that contingency, go the extra length to explain that to the listing agent. Or even write it in the contract if you want to. But there's always ways to work around it. If you're feeling stuck, call someone that has a little bit more experience in it and you can write those things into the contract. Make sense? Okay. You guys, 11 is really easy. Again, though, this is one of those, just read it through and understand it. Taxes get paid by the seller up to either the day of closing or occupancy or possession. Because now we see that sellers are post-occupying a little bit. You know, we're trying to make it the most dreamy offer ever. So we're offering everything. But it's the closing or possession, and you have to fill that out in here. Number 12, that talks about the title company. So you guys, this is something that I think a lot of agents don't really talk very much about. You have the opportunity for your buyer to either have expanded or basic title insurance. There are two different kinds of title insurance. You need to know them. Now, I am not telling you to use this title company because I use Green Title and I recommend them. But Title Core National has a website that you can go to. They have expanded and basic on a one sheet. I leave it on my computer and I send it to my clients. And it just talks about the difference between basic and expanded. Basic is less expensive. So if you have a first-time home buyer that is super tight on cash, that's a good option for them. But it doesn't cover as much. So they're taking risk and you have to know if your buyer's comfortable in accepting that risk. If they want a fridge, like when I forgot that they wanted a wine fridge, Darla, is that what you're asking about? I can't read the whole. Carol, can you read that? The, oh, here I can. No, I've never written the serial number. I've written the location of the refrigerator. You guys, I don't know if you've all read that in the chat, but Sarah asked, give some examples of things that you've written into the contracts. If they want a fridge, etc., do you write the serial number? No, you write where that refrigerator was. So like in my house right now, we have a refrigerator that's in the kitchen. That's generally accepted just as part of the contract. You write refrigerator, that's the kitchen refrigerator. Everyone knows that, right? Well, we also have a refrigerator in our bar, and it's a full-size refrigerator. So if you were writing a contract on my house, you would also write in refrigerator in basement bar area. You don't have to put serial numbers, that kind of thing. Just write the location of it. If there's shelving in the basement and in the garage that your buyer wants, make sure and delineate the two of those, because I think it's vague. Shelving located in, and then there's an other. You guys also be careful of writing too much stuff in there. If it's personal property and it's not attached to the home, lenders don't like to see that you can use a separate addendum, but the lenders don't like to see a lot of other stuff written into the contract. Make sure it's adhered to the home.
Can I add one thing there?
Please.
Is the least amount of personal property that you have in the contract, the more likely you are to not have issues, because you do not want a $400,000 house to not sell because somebody's fighting over a $800 washing machine or dryer or something that needed to be out of the contract because it wasn't in there from the very beginning of the listing. So that is something that you need to lean into your mentor to find out, because a lot of those things can be done outside of the purchase agreement, and you're much safer if you do it that way.
Shelby, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about the website you sent to them. That was
I didn't send them the website.
Oh,
Let me make sure. Yeah, say that differently. I don't send them the website. There's a one sheet there, or maybe I just have Googled it. Title Core National has a one sheet, and maybe we should ask Nate from Green Title to make us a one sheet.
Okay.
Sarah, go ahead.
I have a one sheet from Green Title.
Okay, so scratch all the Title Core National talk, because Green Title is awesome. And Sarah, if you have that, maybe you could share that with the group, the difference between expanded and basic. And I do also, I mean, that's where I use their calculator to find out the difference, and maybe Green Titles. I don't use the app from Green Title. So maybe that's also available on that app. Sarah, have you ever looked into that to see the difference between basic and expanded and the price?
Not the price. Oh shoot, I'll have to look and see what he listed on that. I guess. When you say
it's
app,
usually like $100 or $150 is the price difference. That price gets split between the buyer and the seller, so $50 to $75 savings. But your buyer has to know that there's some things are not covered and expanded. All right, are we good on that?
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, Sarah, if you can share that with the group, that would be fantastic. Maybe send it in an email.
And also real quick, Nate with Green Title is going to be joining one of these meetings. I think in about a month. So store up and remember all those questions, and he's going to be here to answer all of those and anything else that might come up between now and then.
Perfect. That's perfect. So then you guys, let's go ahead and move on. The next one is the closing date. I don't feel like there's a lot of explaining on that to do, but there is right underneath that on 13, it talks about the delay of closing and extensions. You need to read that thoroughly and understand. When we write in that closing date, we have about a 14-day window in there. And I mean, it's not like an accepted, of course, we always want to close on time, but there is a delay and extension of closing. If it goes beyond that 14 days, the purchaser and the seller have to agree upon that. So know that, like, if there's something that's taking longer, if the appraiser didn't get in time, which we did have this year, the appraisers were really backed up at, they didn't have as many appraisers during COVID. And then they were inundated because we were so busy. But that's an exception and not the rule. And then 14 again is the escrow closing company. You can name it as a specific person or you can put green title. So right now we're on the top of page 4. So you guys, what I'm going to challenge you, I'm going to challenge you at this point. So in number 15, when I first got into real estate, my mentor said to me, there's 3 different kinds of surveys. And the first one she explained was the pins. So basically like on a parcel of land, there's 4 pins. So that's the corners. And that's what I always understood that first, the least expensive survey was. Well, just for, fun, I looked them all up and that's not it. So for the last, say 5 years, because I looked it up a little while ago, I had wrong information. So I'm telling you, read the contract, look things up, talk to your mentor, but look it up for yourself too. Always know, because the surveys, what I found is the improvements, it guarantees all of the land improvements are within the boundaries of the property. It doesn't say anything about the pins, right? And then the boundary, it shows the exact lines of the property. And then C is the most thorough, it's the Ulta, and that shows the exact details of the parcel, of the land parcel map. It's obviously they get more expensive as you go, and I do not know the exact pricing of those. So if you have someone that wants a survey, you're gonna have to do some investigating for them. And you guys, that's like, we wear so many different hats, but some of those hats are being the investigator, finding that extra information for our clients. Okay, so number 16 is about the home warranty. We're not seeing a lot of home warranties right now, or at least seller paid home warranties just because of the market, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to start happening again. So basically it comes down to who's going to pay for it, how much is it, what company is it evaluated or non-evaluated. And according to the contract, it says that basically the seller always orders it. So if you're a listing agent, even if the purchaser is paying for it, it's your obligation as the listing agent to make sure that the warranty was ordered. Number 17, wood destroying insects. So exciting. Read this paragraph, know it, because it talks about like when it's supposed to happen, if there's termites, how we get notified, that different kind of thing. So who's going to do the inspection? You have to write it down. Is it if there's more than 2% damage, or you can write it in. Brent, I'll get to you in 1 second. Read the rest of the paragraph and understand what happens if there are termites. I have a client right now, they found termites in some wood that were right next to the house. So they had to treat the entire house. So now my client has a 5-year warranty on that. How cool is that? Brent, what's your question?
I was just gonna ask, the purchase agreement that I have pulled up must be an older version or a different version. I got it from Loop. Is there a different one that I should be?
As of February of this year, we got a whole new purchase agreement. My purchase agreement, I'm trying to figure out a way to delineate the difference. But you, you might be looking at our old purchase agreement. The first change was the the first change was in the personal property. So in order to know if you're using a current one, the old ones did not have security cameras, video doorbells, or digital smart thermostats and light switches in the personal property. Because we're cool now and we have that stuff. Are you finding it?
No, I
Brent,
have
I'll
the
email
old
it
one.
to you. Here, I just downloaded it, Brent. I'll send that to you now.
Thank you.
You bet.
But that makes me a little bit nervous, like maybe I have the wrong copy. But this is the one I've been using to write contracts, so hopefully it's the right one. Just kidding. Okay, 18 is personal property inspection. When I first overviewed that, I was like, oh, you have the right to a personal property inspection. What that means, really, if we get down to it, if you read that thoroughly, it says that, oh heck, sorry, I think I lost my track. This is that actually talks about property inspections. And so the very first, I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack. And the very first thing I'm going to say about this, you guys, if you're a listener, I would recommend to you that in lieu of property inspections, this is a very vague and it could include any number of inspections. It doesn't say a whole home inspection. It says asbestos, mold, lead, radon. We want to know as a listing agent, what inspections, what do you intend? Now that doesn't say that hard and fast. If the inspector finds something that you can't ask for an additional mold inspection, but let them know the intentions or ask for the buyer's intentions up front. So what I do is I put the authorization to obtain inspections in my associated docs, and I write in the agent notes to please include that with the purchase agreement. Now, if they don't, they don't, but I have the right to ask on behalf of my buyer or my sellers. And what that does is it specifies, we want a whole home inspection. This is, the amount of time that we're going to do it in. Because that, Brent, you brought up that old contract. Before it used to be 7 days to do a home inspection, and now it's 14. Big difference. It was 7 to 10 days, and now it's 14. So there's a lot of difference from the old contract, and that authorization gets it more specific again. But you guys, again, read all of 18 because it speaks about the time frame that you have to do those inspections. If you're asking for repairs, how you're going to, if you want out of the contract because there's too much damage to the property, how to go about that, how to ask for that earnest deposit back. So that's too much for me to tell you all specifically, but it's up to you to know those. And then specifically speaking, our old contract used to say, and a lot of agents don't realize this, that if there's a radon test done and it's over 4 picocuries per liter of air, that the seller no longer has to automatically put in that system. Our old contract said that, so don't get caught up in that. Make sure that you understand as an agent that the seller doesn't have to fix that automatically. Sorry, I feel like I'm giving you so much information. So you guys, number 19 is really important. Every single line of this contract is important. That's ridiculous to say, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a story about 3 weeks ago that happened to me. I have people that are buying an acreage, and they asked when we were going into the house, hey, do you guys have high-speed internet? And they're like, yeah, we have high-speed internet. And that was the whole conversation. Oh, who is it? And they said who it was. Well, my people need high-speed internet for Zoom calls for their work. Their son games, of course, we need high-speed internet for that. They were thinking like the seller and the renter were thinking, oh, we have internet, but Zoom internet takes up like it's a different range of just having regular internet. There's qualifications. My buyers made an offer on the house and then started investigating and found that there was no high-speed internet and that they would have to build a 70-foot tower and it has to be on a concrete pad and it costs about $5,000, which is a little bit of a problem. So you need to make sure if the school is so super important, anything like that, that the buyer does their due diligence on the front end, or you do know what their wants and needs are and make sure that you get those met. Or you could be helping pay for those things. I'm not on that antenna. I'm not. Anyway. So then let's talk about 20. The purchaser takes, utilities. Seller pays until closing day. On the date of closing, purchaser takes over. Now that we have all of these smart thermostats and stuff, the seller has to wipe out their personal information before the day of closing. How I do utilities, as soon as we get the appraisal back from for the buyer, I send my buyers a one sheet that we had made available to us at our Homes and Gardens with the phone numbers to OP, like all of the utility companies. And I tell them that they need to sign up for electricity and gas on the day of closing. But I use the appraisal as my marker. The condition of the property, you guys get to walk through the property. The seller maintains the property until that point. The seller has to maintain like mowing, leaf removal, that sort of thing. I have my people, I try to go through 3 days before, because if there's something wrong, like like right now, if all the leaves have dropped, we want a couple of days for the seller to make things right. If you do it the night before or the day of closing, you don't really have any options left. I mean, you're not giving your buyer any, or the seller any time to remedy anything, but obviously things happen. So also right now, you guys, it's important if you have a buyer and they're buying a house with a sprinkler system, make sure that the sprinkler system is evacuated of water right now. Like in the month of October or November, it's incredibly important because they'll have a leak over the winter if the seller doesn't handle that before closing. Number 22 is with regard to rents and leases. I'm not going to go over it, read it, know it if you're looking for rental properties or if you're buying a property that's a rental property. Number 23 is about the HOA. Your buyers, by buying a house within an HOA, they're going to assume that they're going to follow the rules of the HOA. So if it says no black roofs, they can't put a black roof on their house. They also have to pay the association dues starting the day of closing. 24, release of information. The MLS gets the price if there were seller paid costs, date of closing, because that's how we do our CMAs moving forward, right? Let's see, number 25. These are all the items that you have to have, must-haves pertaining to the property. We know that the buyer has to see the seller's property condition disclosure. They have to initial it and it has to be part of the contract. If the house was built before 78, there has to be a lead-based paint disclosure. If the house is in a SID, you need to make your buyers aware of that SID. I hate to say this again, but I use title court because I started with them. And I look up the SID information and I have my buyers sign, I put signatures on the SID sheet. And
Can you
we also
explain SID quickly?
Yeah.
In case somebody doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, so say that they have just built a whole neighborhood. They have to pay for the paving in the street, the sewage system, all of that stuff. And so they have a big gigantic loan for that. And as they buy into that neighborhood, they begin paying that down in their taxes. Well, the city doesn't want to absorb that big, huge deficit, right? So the city says, you stay over there in your nice little SID until you pay that down. What that means is sometimes you do not have, even if you're in the city, you may not have the same trash services. You need to find out as the agent. Trash services, you can't vote in that municipality. Did I say that word right? I hate that word. You also don't necessarily have the same emergency services. So again, these are things that you want to find out. The due diligence on the buyer's behalf, but as their agent, you need to find out those things and know that area that you guys are looking at houses into. It's not always the case, but usually if you're in an SID, it's more expensive because you're paying on that bill. I've seen them last as long as 20 years before you can get rid of it. It just depends on how quickly that gets paid down, how many houses, how much the taxes are.
It's a sanitary
improvement district.
Improvement district.
Okay, so then going back to number 25, we don't discriminate, but they can for age. That's the only thing that we can discriminate because there's 55 and older housing. The seller has to have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms according to the law. And any affiliated business has to be specifically written into an arrangement with everyone signing. So 26 has been recently changed for us. And when they changed over, they made some changes on this. The seller has to maintain insurance on the property until the day of closing, and the buyer takes over. If there's damage, so if we have a massive hail or windstorm, say like last night, if I got some damage and I was under contract, I immediately have to notify, and it says specifically the amount of time that I have to notify the buyer, and that if it's more than 5% of the purchase price of the home, either party can cancel the contract. So say if there was a fire and it wiped out the house, the purchaser's not buying the house. 27, This is peculiar. I think that this is new in our contract. End of day is 5 p.m. So when we have days, that's the end of day when it counts. Now, obviously that's not on expiration because we write in the expiration time of the contract. If we start a day count, the day count starts the next day. So if we're saying 14 days and we have 14 days for home inspection, it starts the day after the purchase agreement, which I did not know until I read that thoroughly last night. How about that? Number 28, any modifications that are done to this purchase agreement has to be done in writing. The purchaser and the seller have to sign it. 29, electronic signatures like dot loop. Any electronic signature is recognized as a legal or wet signature. And they also talk about this, which I don't really, the last signed document is it's recognized as the only document. Because think about it, we probably have like, we have at least 3 purchase agreements because we write one, our people sign it, and then we shoot it off to the other agent. We still have that original purchase agreement. They sign it and then they send it back to us. The last one signed is is considered the one copy.
There's a couple of questions. Brent, did you get your question asked? Okay. And Sarah, do you have clients want to change on number 26, less than 5%?
And they can't they? I mean, isn't there an open space for it?
There's a blank. And my mentor helped me walk through it. It's just, I just want to make sure. So my clients had been concerned. They're like, 5% could be a large amount of money. And so, and I guess I'm just curious, in your experience, have you ever changed that amount? Or
Sarah, not on that, but I do, I was on a team and my team leader changed the termite one. She always put 1% instead of 2% on termite. I don't see any problem with it unless, of course, the sellers don't agree to it. It's a lot of money, but the seller still has to make the repair, even less if it's less than 5%. But I feel like that it's your buyer's option. And so talk it through with them, but also let your buyers make that final decision. It's their agreement, not ours. And then what if something did happen and it was, 10,000 or whatever, it wasn't 5%, and that they still didn't want to buy the house? You wouldn't want to put yourself in that situation. At least that's what I think. But listen to your mentor and don't tell her that I said anything different than what she said. I'm just kidding. She's not. She's my friend. All right, guys. Number 30 is our BAC feed. There's people, I've seen these all over the place. Better Homes and Gardens, you have to have 350. Some people put it a little bit higher and collect more money for themselves. Some people, I do mine a little bit higher and save the money for my client parties or things that I do for my clients. I've seen them as high as $1,000, but be careful when doing that, because your people might balk and you don't want to get in an argument about that. Okay, number 31. This one's complex and it's heavy, and I would really love if Tom was here to explain it all. I'm going to give you a very, very brief and light overview of arbitration and mediation. What it is, we have that in there because we'd like to avoid everyone running to court cases. Very expensive. Originally, say if there's a dispute and we cannot get it resolved between the agents, the brokers, then what we do ask that, well, we don't ask, it's written in here, they go to mediation. Mediation, it's important to know, is non-binding. It's far less expensive. It does not involve attorneys. I think that I heard Tom say it's around 1,000, but don't use that for sure and find out on your own before you throw out numbers, because it could cost more and then you get stuck in a corner. So it goes to arbitration. Basically, if they can't resolve it in mediation. I mix up those two because they're written, arbitration first and then mediation, but they start with mediation. Then it goes to arbitration if it's not successful in mediation. Arbitration is more expensive. You employ an attorney at that point. Your attorney writes up a document, gets presented. You guys, there are dates in here. if something happens, your buyer is unhappy with their home, within 365 days of figuring out that they're very unhappy about this, they have to do this. If it's the 367th day, they're out. It's too late. They cannot do that. But arbitration is more expensive. It is binding. It is all the dates are in these paragraphs, and it's very important that you know, and it's too much for me to go through all of them, but also talk this portion through with your mentor so that when you're in your buyer's meeting, going through the purchase agreement. So when your buyer's writing an offer on a house, this is not the first time that they've seen these 10 pages of legally binding contract. But that arbitration, it obviously can escalate from there, but it's the hope that it will save everyone money and keep it minimized to that level. Number 32 is the offer expiration. Obviously, this market has been nuts, and people have like sent me an agreement with less than 4 hours. I usually try to maintain 6 to 8 hours so that the listing agent has the opportunity to go back to the people, get the contract signed and back to me. It depends on now we know what time people are reviewing offers. They're reviewing offers at 5 o'clock, give them an hour and put it at 6 o'clock that day. But also know the situation and that's an ever-changing time frame. Number 33 is all the documents that you include with your purchase agreement. I was originally told not to fill that out because then you have to send all the documents to the mortgage lender. But when Tom was doing an ATA with us, he said that he thought that it was important to check those. So now I check everything that I include with the documents. The next part is the purchaser's information. There, I don't fill all that out because I don't put my purchaser's address or phone number in there. That's just a personal preference. I don't think it should be, information for everyone to have. The next part though is name for deeds. You guys follow what's on their driver's license for the name for deeds so that when they go to buy their home, they're closing, they give their driver's license and it matches their driver's license. Now it's also important to know, are they going to take it with joint, if they're married, are they doing joint tenants with survivorship? I always write that in. I ask my people, like, if something were to happen to Mrs. Buyer, does Mr. Buyer want to own the home completely, or is maybe there a kid that house should go to? How do you guys want to handle this? Especially in second marriages, it might be a little bit different circumstances. So you need to fill out that section. And if you need help with that, talk to Nate too about how to best fill that out. Okay, you guys, I'm going to give you some strategy. It's not really that big of a deal, but the next part is the realtor information. That's your information. Fill it out completely. But then also below that is the seller agent information. If you guys are in a multiple offer situation, even if you're not, if you're the only agent writing and you're the agent writing this agreement, put the listing agent's information in there. You can go to the MLS and just put, what's that category called, you guys? John or Rhonda, you would know. You're muted, John.
It's membership.
Members. Yeah, I saw
it's
you
like
say that.
6 icons to the right.
Exactly. It's like 3/4 of the way up.
Mhm.
And it's members roster, I think, or something
Mhm.
like that. Click on that. You put the agent's name in it. You can figure out what their address, their work address, their work phone number, their MLS number, all of that. Fill it out. It's just a super respectful way to treat the other agent on the front end. And I mean, as silly as it may be, it frustrates me when people don't, because I always do that for the other agent. And then when they do it, I'm also tickled. So tickle people. That's weird. All right. Oh, the last thing, of course, the signature part, but also you guys, I tell everybody, because for whatever reason, if they're first time home buyers, they really bemoan the fact that they have to initial the bottom of every page. All I say to them about that is I say, oh, they just want to make sure that we didn't sneak in any pages on you. So you have to they have to initial every single page on the purchase agreement and then sign where it says purchaser's name or purchase signature. You guys, what questions do you have for me?
Questions? Come on, you guys. We've got a couple of minutes left.
Brent, are you taking our picture?
Brent,
No, I just have my phone in my hand. I was all excited.
Oh, you were.
What
I
is
thought you were
like?
taking our picture because we're a cool class.
I'm not that fancy. Well, I guess it's my phone, so I could have done it with that. What is over your years like the most creative way that you've seen an offer stand out that was just like, holy crap, I want to work with this person right away? Or if there was one like that you've had.
I would say a fully and completely and correctly filled out purchase agreement is a really good start. I mean, that sounds ludicrous, but John is nodding his head. So that tells you that other people somehow cannot fill out all the documents. And if I have an affiliated business arrangement and a wire fraud in there, do not send me your wire. Well, you can send me your wire fraud, but also fill mine out. So just fill out all of the documents completely. Now, if you're asking as far as like what buyers should do, that's a whole different bag. But I'm telling you, I've seen some crazy stuff. On a VA loan, if your client, I'm going to give you some, for instances, if your client has a VA loan, it costs the sellers a little bit more. The termite gets paid for by the seller. Well, you guys, there's another, it's like a $250 fee, and I'm not remembering what it is at the time, but it's a seller's. The seller has to absorb that on a VA loan. So what I had an agent do is, on a VA loan, the buyer cannot pay seller paid closing costs. The buyer or the buyer's agent took it out of her commission. She took $500 out of her commission to cover those VA extra charges. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you that that was done. So it kind of cushioned some of the expenses, and I think that it made my sellers more comfortable with taking a VA. Because it's $350 that the seller has to absorb automatically on a VA loan. Beautiful things that are really nice. Cleaning, telling the sellers, you don't even have to clean. Get all your stuff out and we'll send in a cleaning company. My sellers have really liked that. Call the listing agent and ask them, tell me about the circumstances in which your seller is moving. Or I'm sorry, your seller is moving. Find out if they're going to move down to the very last day before. Give them 3 days of post-occupancy. I know there's agents that will give even more. I'm really comfortable with 3 days. They can move out in 1 day, and then it gives them 2 days to thoroughly clean that house. So what I would say is,
when you're done,
go ahead, of course.
Krista, I just wanted to add. Here's my overall view of writing a purchase agreement. The best ones that I've received and the way we write offers is we answer every single question. I don't want to counter back. So if we say we're going to do an inspection, we answer the question, oh, are they going to ask us for something? Now what's this going to cost us? We're doing an inspection. We are looking for major items that will cost individually over $1,000 each. We've set up the inspection with Inspectix at 12 o'clock on Tuesday. It will be completed. We will have the answer to be submitted by whatever.
With
all
the
of
3
that
business days, yeah, something like that.
Done out there. We're going to give you $500 to have the house professionally cleaned when you moved out. We're going to give you 3 days to up to 3 days to move out after we've closed. All of it is, but this is in smaller amount of words. But just remember when you're writing that, keep it simple. Make sure that what you're doing is answering every single question. If you said that they are in contract on another home that you're making it contingent upon, give them a copy of that contract, show them that they have already released the inspection, answer every single question, be the seller, and answer every single question. And I would say that 85% of every offer we wrote this year came back with no, accepted as written.
Well, and Brent, I think that the best way to get those, like to be proactive, like Carol's talking about on the front end, is to call the listing agent and ask questions. Don't talk, don't say, this is what my buyer wants to do. Ask them, what are the circumstances for your seller? Because if you give them post-occupancy and they're planning on moving out 2 weeks before closing, you're really not giving them anything, are you? So ask questions and find out how you can basically make it the most lovely for the seller. in this market, that's really what we're looking for. Now, obviously, it's not quite as competitive as it used to be. We're getting home inspections in, but what Carol said about minimizing the amount, I have done like $2,000, $1,000. It's whatever your buyer is comfortable with. Other questions, you guys? Or Brent, did we answer that? Alexis, you look like you're thinking real hard. Got some questions?
What's the
I'm just taking
scariest,
it
the
all in.
scariest thing about writing a contract? Just one thing. That's the scariest thing about writing a purchase agreement right now.
Oh, I don't know about right now, but I have a good one for you. I mean, I have because when I was early on in the business, I was writing an offer and maybe we were in the middle of the contract. And I asked my mentor, I was like, hey, how many days do they have to respond to the home inspection? And she said, if you don't know your purchase agreement terms and limitations, you best go back and identify all of those. So before you like start writing offers, maybe know everything that's in there. Now, I can't tell you verbatim every single thing that's in the purchase agreement, but I have a really good understanding of it, I think. That sounds terrible. I do. But also by pre-explaining it in a buyer's meeting, I think that you build confidence in your buyer and you also show your knowledge. If you're like kind of zipping through that purchase agreement and giving them good top points on those lines, you're going to show them that you're knowledgeable, that you've done your due diligence for them.
Yeah. And lean into your mentor. I'd say the first year you want to run, you want to run your purchase agreements by somebody else, particularly at least first 6 months if you've got a good amount of them. It just doesn't ever hurt to lean into somebody else. I call Tim a lot, or other people that that I'm like, I just need some verbiage for this, that it keeps coming back to me, that could I defend this in court? So that's always what you want to do.
Those are really terrifying words, Carol.
Well, but it's actually, I want you to be terrified.
She just said the scariest thing about writing a purchase agreement.
Yeah.
Could I defend this in court?
Yeah. It's just, you've got to be specific to at least a compromising agreement. So yeah, just being specific about words.
Well, and I think that the best way to cover yourself is like, could I defend this in court? If you discuss the purchase agreement and instead of just like filling it out and sending it to your clients and just waiting for them to sign it, that's not a way to take care of your purchaser. You need to
always
go through that
over it with your client. Always go over it, because you might catch your own mistakes that you made, or or
your client might, which is awesome.
Or your client might, which is awesome. Or you not eliminated, but you forgot to put something, and that's the worst. Like you forgot
a wine refrigerator.
Yeah. We wanted the refrigerator.
A washer and dryer.
Yeah, because
they're wanting to pay sellers closing costs. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I mean, it's a 10-page legally binding contract. There's a ton of information in there. Go over it in a buyer's meeting. Build your buyer's confidence in you then. And go over it. And it's so easy now. You send them the document. Well, I don't do it by Zoom. I send them the document. I ask them to pull it up. We all get on the phone and we walk through the agreement together. Yeah. And it's worked for me.
Yes. Perfect. Great information. This could go on for like 6 hours, but I know everybody's got places that they need to be. Thank you, Krista, really a lot.
I have one question real quick. Can I ask a question real quick about expiration times? So how important is it if something is out, like our buyer submitted to the seller and gave them until 6 o'clock, they need until 8 o'clock. And of course, we know if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Do you put that in there, like buyer extends expiration period to 8 o'clock and have them sign off on that?
It's as easy as the listing agent, I will write that in the counter offer, that everyone recognizes that the expiration time is now, and I'll put the expiration time to 8 p.m. at that point. You can just write it in the counter offer. if you wrote 6 p.m. and the agent said that we needed until 8 p.m. and you're concerned, like if you have a concern that that's not going to be recognized, then I would just put it in an addendum and send it. But I've never had anyone say, well, your agreement expired at 6, because as a listing agent, we want the most amount or the best options for our client too.
Yeah.
Always go to your mentor, always go to whoever it is that can give you advice if you have any doubt whatsoever. And you're not expected to have all this verbiage because it's extensive and it changes a lot. So I'm always here. You can always call me. Krista will respond. Tim, there's just so many people that you can go to. So and your mentor, of course. So hey, I want to thank you so much, Krista. Thanks you everybody that showed up today, and 100 Days to Greatness. I know this is a load of information, but you guys are getting so much that will be helpful to you that most new agents don't get. You know, they get their license, they get some business cards, and then they begin a spiral. So we're looking for all of you guys just to go up. So next week is going to be inspections in the Agents Mentoring Agents class. Is going to be all on inspections. And you'll be watching the video from there. Rhonda will be sending that out, correct?
I will. There's actually 2.
There's 2, yeah. And then Dawn Grimshaw will be in the class on at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, and Dawn will go over all the stuff that you learned in the videos, and you can ask all the questions you want about inspections. So
well, and on top of that, you guys go with your mentor to an inspection walkthrough.
Yeah.
Experience that firsthand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All right,
thanks very
guys.
much. Have a great day, you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.